One of the things that I see the most in comments is how do I deal with X matchup using X build? And while I definitely try to reply to as many of these comments as I can with the tips that have helped me out in those particular fights, the goal of the video today is to try and drive home the point that how you play your build is infinitely more important to your success than what build you're running or what matchup you find yourself in. I'm going to be breaking down a couple of 1v1s against some of the harder matchups for my build, but I hope that regardless of what build you run, you can at least gain a little bit more confidence that even if you run into your so-called counter, that it ultimately comes down to what decisions you and your opponent make and who ends up making more mistakes. One of the hardest matchups for the Rapier, I think, is definitely against full mages, especially ones that have really good aim, because as you start to get up there in the levels, the damage that you deal with really one heavy attack is really a lot to deal with. And if they are able to land a couple in succession, they can literally end the fight before it even begins. So there's two ways that I like to kind of try and deal with those matchups. I either dip, duck, and dodge and try and close that distance as fast as I can, because once you're in their face and are able to apply pressure, it becomes very hard for mage builds to continue damaging you, because they're forced to focus all of their attention on playing defensive and keeping themselves alive. The other way you can kind of deal with those matchups is by honestly hitting them with more attacks than they hit you with. Now, it definitely sounds easier said than done, but one of the things that I'm going to highlight in one of the fights is your movement is very crucial when it comes to those kind of long-range heavy attack battles, because as you've been able to tell if you've been playing the game, it's kind of hard to hit people who are zigzagging, and little things like just changing the direction of your movement and not moving in a predictable pattern makes the world of difference in you landing one or two more heavy attacks than your opponent, which gives you the opening to try and close that fight. Now, before we jump into the mage fights, I want to break down a 1v1 against a level 60 sword and shield and hatchet player, because those are probably, if not the mages, one of the hardest matchups you have to deal with as well on the Rapier, because they are running heavy armor, so they're tanky. They have sword and shield, so they have defensive buffs, and with the hatchet, they have the sustain and the damage to still kill you. So it's really a delicate fight when you run into those matchups, because you really have to rely on the mobility and spacing that you're able to get with your build and really wait for an opening. So let's go ahead and take a look at that fight. So jumping into that 1v1 against the tank, as I mentioned, he is level 60, so I kind of just start this fight out by trying to get a sense of how much damage I can deal to him. And as you can see by our health bars right there, it is not that much. So I immediately switch to a way more defensive playstyle here and decide that I have to chip his health down and look for an opening. So we're going to go ahead and use the fact that we have way more mobility than he does in his build. Use our rolls, use our fléché, our evades to constantly change directions and keep our spacing to just chip his health down with the fire staff and kind of jump in for a rapier combo whenever we have our parry up. But you're noticing I'm really not committing to anything too serious here, because he has the damage to kill us and we cannot burst him down. So I'm trying to just play the fight here, play my spacing, and you're going to see here, even though we land a couple of attacks and manage to land parries, I'm really not going to go ahead and commit to anything there, and we still managed to get clipped with quite a bit of damage there. I stay in here a little bit too long and we end up paying the price for it. He jumps in for the lunge, but we just managed to barely escape and get saved by the tree branch there. As soon as I start seeing some hatchets fly, we change directions and switch to the fire staff, land a beautiful fireball and incinerate combo, find our opening, and for the first time in the entire fight, we go ahead and fully go in for our combo there. So using those evade resets, we manage to proc his hatchet ultimate there, and knowing that it's down, we keep that pressure up, chase him down with the fire staff, and just like that, playing our time, chipping his health down, we managed to find an opening, hit him with the parry, and finish him off for a beautiful 1v1 there. And then jumping into those mage 1v1s, taking a look at this first fight here, as I mentioned before, just by using a little bit of zigzagging with our movement here, we're able to avoid these first couple of heavies that would have chunked us pretty badly. And we follow up with a couple of hours. And just like that, as I mentioned, mages are very, very squishy most of the time. After landing just a couple, we have him on a very, very low amount of health, and he's forced to avoid all of our attacks and play defensive. And we have our opening to pretty much just walk up and close the distance there. So I throw down a shower on his entomb, try to break it a little bit. I try to predict him going for the damage option there, but we don't get it. I go aggressive right as he jumps out of his, but we get caught in the ice storm, so not really wanting to get bursted, I just jump into my entomb to wait it out. As soon as I jump out here, I try to go for a spike, but we get hit with a disgusting incinerate, take a lot of burst damage. He falls up with a pillar, and we are very, very low, but we just try and play our cool, land a shower, hit him with a ton of burst, parry his light attack, and just like that, we get a very, very, very close 1v1. And then, knowing how much damage he has, we're going to play this second fight with them with that in mind. So we're going to go ahead and try and just bait out his attacks here before we play aggressive. So we get the fireball there, he throws out the pillar right after, and we're just waiting for the incinerate. And right after he throws it out, we land the stagger on our ice spike, and we go in for that rapier combo. Just dodging out of that ice storm, and knowing that his fire staff stuff is down, we really try and play aggressive there. I don't manage to land the parry on his entomb, but we just continue to play aggressive because we are not really that low. Cancel whatever he was about to cast there with our ice spike, and we just switch to the ice gauntlet there to mix up. I think he thought we were gonna stay on our rapier there and continue to play aggressive, but switching to that ice gauntlet and staying back confused him just enough to get a really, really nice 1v1 there. But I hope that you guys can kind of get an idea by what I mean when I say fights are way, way, way more situational, and it comes down to how you play them versus the matchups and the builds and what the specifics are in each case. But please let me know what you guys thought of the video, if you thought it was helpful. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great day.